Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. This is the beginner's guide to Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. So Fatal Fury just came out, and this is a mechanically in-depth game. Many fighting games of year past have always been accused of dumbing things down. Nobody accusing this game of that. This is one of the most mechanically in-depth fighting games ever made, full stop. So in this guide, we're going to be covering everything there is to know about the gameplay and the systems to help you understand the game better. If I'm smart, I probably put timestamps to everything in there. Hopefully I did that. But yeah, so there's a lot to go on here, and it's a straightforward game, even though it is mechanically in-depth. There's no drive rush or anything like that, although, you know, a lot of characters can run, so there is that. But before we get into like the really scary stuff, let's start with the basics. So now let's start with just the absolute basics here. So normally I would say that this game is a 4-button game, as it's an SNK game, but it's actually a 5-button game this time around. So we have light punch, heavy punch, light kick, heavy kick, and these are usually known as A, B, C, and D. But there's also the Rev button, and the Rev button, we'll talk about it more later. It adds quite a bit to the game. And of course, these various buttons, you can hit them in all sorts of combinations, do crouching attacks, jumping attacks, regular attacks. This is an old school style game, so we do have close attacks as well. And of course, you can do different combinations, emotions, all that, to do special moves. You get the idea, right? Naturally, there is a super meter in the game. Those are the 2 glowing stars you can see at the bottom here. Each one represents, well, 1 super meter, and everyone has at least 2 level 1 supers and 2 level 2 supers. And usually level 2 super is pretty much a direct upgrade from the level 1. Not always, sometimes they fulfill different rules, but usually that's how it is. Level 2 versions, bigger, faster, better, do more damage, usually some kind of extra flashy and impressive. We have other meters as well, like above those super bars, we have the Rev Gauge. So when you do any kind of move that like is an enhanced move, a Rev move, that gauge goes up, and it will slowly go down over time. And the main thing is, like, this is basically what fundamentally gates your offense. The crazier you go, eventually you go into overheat, and then, well, you can still do moves, and we'll talk more about it later. You can't do your craziest stuff anymore. Now, a big part of this as well is just, besides just enhanced moves, which are of course naturally quite strong, is there is also the Rev Accel Cancels system. So you can make an enhanced move go into other enhanced moves, and that's very powerful. So now you can make all sorts of moves chained together in ways they just never would otherwise, creating very elaborate combos, and that's very important. And see, that raised our gauge a lot. So you can get very damaging, very excessive combos, but you will have to pay for them. They're not free. And there's other gameplay systems, like we have feints and breaks. Feints make it look like you're doing a move and you're not doing the move. Like, say, Harry here, is he about to go for power wave or not? Just at a quick glance, it's hard to tell. That's why it's a feint. However, feints can be also very powerful for combos, because that combo right there normally never works ever without it, right? So I need the feint to create that combo. And just to keep all the mechanic stuff going, there's the brake system, as in pumping the brakes. So say I want to do my big old dunk move. That's great. But I can also break it early, stop, and instead I do not complete the whole move. Mine still gets hit. She still gets launched in the air. But now maybe I can do something else entirely. So there's lots of mechanics and mechanical depth in the game, and we're going to be covering all of it. There will be timestamps. So if anything in particular sounds good to you or interesting to you, make sure you go to that section. So there's a lot of fighting game 101 to be had here. It's very in-depth. So that said, we're going to start with our first section, just specifically focusing on movement. Okay, now let's talk movement. So in 2D games, non-anime fighting games anyways, movement's usually fairly standard, although this is an SNK game, so there's a couple particulars. One, you know, some characters, we can just run. We can just go for it, as you can see here. However, other characters can't run, they dash. So this is unique character to character. A couple notes. When you run, you can cancel the run into anything you want. And so you don't have to commit to the run. And that's what makes run so strong. You can just run until you want to hit a button. One weakness though, specifically at the very beginning of a run, you can't block. Like, you can see me run, then hold back. That's not working. I can still run, I can still hit buttons, just you're looking to commit to the run itself. You have like a little period where you have to commit to the run, so you can't block immediately frame one from a run. Now dashes. After you dash, hold forward, you just start walking again, right? Now the thing about dash is you can also cancel out of a dash. So it's not like you're stuck in the animation necessarily. It's just overall a dash isn't quite as mobile as a run is. You will not have that same forward momentum, but you can still cancel. So don't think of a dash as like a completely negative thing. In fact, dashes can be fantastic for helping like auto time certain things because they have a set amount they got to go, right? If you just let it rock. So that is nice. Very quick character specific note, however, though. T-Zoc has his own unique dash in that you cannot cancel it into anything. He is stuck for the duration of the move, giving him effectively the worst dash in the game. Now, T-Zoc being T-Zoc, you can do things like buffer in 360s and 720s during the dash, because now you know you won't jump, because you're committed to it, right? But other than that, like, you have to make every dash committal with this character. For everyone else, dash or run, you can always cancel into something else. Now, jumping. This is where this gets different from, say, something like Street Fighter. Jumps, there's 3 jumps in this game. So first, the regular jump. This is what you're used to, right? You jump up, hit the opponent in the head. Fantastic, even. So that's normal, but there's also hops. A hop does not go as high as a jump. A hop means when you do your jumping offense, like you're that much lower to the ground, your attack can go live that much faster. So a hop is a much scarier form of offense than a full jump. Of course, they both have their place. They both have their own values, right? There's a right call for each one, right? A hop is different in that you only have to hold up for a few frames. Now, for some people, that can be difficult-ish. It's been long the case in like King of Fighters games, people might struggle with hops. However, they added a shortcut. If you hold that rev button, it's one of the many things it does, and you hold jump, you will always hop while you're holding the rev button, no matter what. So now you can always have a perfect hop. You never have to worry about if you held the button too long or not. If you hold the rev button and jump, it'll always be a hop. So that's fantastic. Okay, so we have jumps, we have hops. That's great. There's also another kind of jump called a dash jump. And that one's actually, it's simple enough. Run or dash, and then jump. So all you gotta do is run or dash and then jump, and you'll literally go further. So just as a visual example, I'll put myself in the corner here against Mai. If I jump out of the corner, I'm out of the corner obviously, but you can see I'm basically touching Mai. If I very quickly dash before the jump, you can see I jumped out again still, but you can see there's a good amount of distance more, right? So it's not like a hyper jump, a super jump or whatever, like an anime game or whatever, but it basically, it just gives your jump more overall distance, especially if you're running at the enemy and you want to jump in. This is what you'll get every time anyways. So this will give you the most possible reach on your jump in, which is what you're looking for when you're running and jumping anyways. And the note, again, character specific note, T-Zoc can't do it because T-Zoc can't jump out of his dash. So that's generally the basics of it. Now, hops are why jumps are a lot scarier in this game compared to the average 2D fighter, because you're just much lower to the ground. That means the jump attack goes live a lot faster, and that's why sometimes jumps can just be pokes. Like, it doesn't have to be anything other than on its face. I just jump and I kick you, and that's it. I'm not necessarily looking for a combo or a setup or whatever. The hop into the button is the poke in and of itself. Like, say I can't kick you from this far, well, I can certainly hop and kick you in the head, right? Because maybe a full jump will give you enough time to land, you know, the uppercut on me and send me on my way. And that's the basics, so that's movement 101. Now, let's start talking about how offense works in the game. Everyone loves offense in a fighting game. So I guess one real quick thing is there is a universal auto combo. So if you do close light punch, you go close light punch, heavy, heavy kick. Done. It kind of works for everybody. Everyone has their own unique target combos as well, at least most people do. Also, you can attach a Rev Blow to the end of it if you happen to be in your SPG, and we'll talk more about the SPG stuff later. So now a very big part of offense as a whole is, like, obviously your attacks, but close attacks versus far attacks. They're very different. Generally, well, for one, close attacks happen when you're close, when you're beside the enemy, and it changes all your moves. Like, here's regular heavy punch, here's close heavy punch. It's an uppercut, right? It's completely different. Here's generally the difference. Close attacks will generally be faster. Like, stand light punch here, 6 frames. Close light punch, 4 frames. Far heavy punch, 7 frames. Close heavy punch, 5 frames. Far heavy kick, 9 frames. Close heavy kick, 8 frames. Like, and so on and so forth. So generally, they're going to be fast, right? Whatever your button is normally, it's going to be even faster up close. And one of the big deals is they all come with different frame data, right? Too. Besides just startup, like this can be -3 on hit. This can be -1 on hit. And of course, with stuff like feints, it can become +7. And we'll talk about feint and combo stuff later in the video. But it's a very important thing that your close offense is just as important as the regular buttons. They all change up when you're directly up against your enemy. This is also very important as many characters have close normals that even without any tricks or feints or whatever, just give them enough frame advantage that they can link into heavy normals by themselves. So just know that close offense is very important in this game. Now, a bit of offensive defense. So there are what we call dodge attacks in the game. So it can either be the rev button and heavy button, or you can just macro to your own button press, whatever works for you. And they come in two flavors, but button press by itself and down and the button press. And the attacks are different character to character. And sometimes the reason you want to use them will change character to character, but they do have some universal rules. Although actually we'll start with a somewhat universal rule. So generally, if a character doesn't have a command overhead, like, forward light punch or some kind of move that's just an overhead by itself normally, then generally the low dodge will act as the overhead. So we can see here Salvatore blocking low, but can't block that low, right? So generally, if you don't have an overhead otherwise, then the low dodge will become your overhead. So now the low dodge attack. You can see here that dramatic slow-mo. Well, low dodge attack goes over lows for the most part. Doesn't always trigger the slow-mo. There is a certain sweet spot to it. But that's generally the idea here is when you do the hard call, I know you're going to go for like this very low angle move. Then you'll get it and you'll get the punish on them. And here's the thing. You generally have to be like already kind of into the move to get the slow-mo, versus if they happen roughly the same time, they don't. So it's kind of like the call out. I know you're doing this. But when you get that slow-mo effect, it gives you enough time to mentally assess like, okay, I got you dead to rights. Like if it's giving you the slow-mo, you can be assured it's a guaranteed deal, right? So the idea here is then, okay, now that I know I'm going to have these moves guaranteed to hit, I'm going to have XYZ amount of advantage frames. And basically, I can use them to get all sorts of combos. You can get the big punish. But again, this is only for very low angle attacks. If now the character comes in and kicks me in the head, well, that's not exactly going to help me out, right? Because this is the low dodge attack. So what we want here now is the high dodge attack. That's down version of this move here. Again, rev blow and heavy punch, or you can macro it to a button press. So now, same deal. Okay. If I know you're going to do something that's kind of mid-hitting or higher, then I can do this and trigger this slow-mo response. And now here, unlike the other move, almost all the high dodges are some kind of jump involved. Since this is more grounded, you can do special cancels off this. So if I get this to trigger, I know I got my stuff come to me. I'm guaranteed the hits. I see the slow-mo, I can special cancel the hit, go from there. Now, the thing that makes this extra useful, especially for characters like, say, a Jenny that don't have amazing anti-air offense, when this beats, mid or higher attacks, that does count jumping attacks. So, generally, at minimum, usually it has a good enough hitbox that it can just beat a jump in by itself, because it has basically what we would call upper body invincibility. Now, depending on the jump, you might also trigger the slow-mo. It depends on which attacks are coming your way, but it's also not frame one, as you see right there. So if you do it too late, you don't necessarily get that upper body invincibility, and you'll still get hit out of it. It'll say counter hit, so you do have to kind of lead them ahead. And it's not always the best option to defeat a jump, but it is good against jumps. And keep in mind, it's still special cancelable, so you can go into a special move afterwards to get just a little bit of taste. So it's a conditional anti-air and good to beat low. So between these two here, it's basically always, if you have the hard call out, you can always get someone and hit them hard. Now, a very simple offensive concept. Let's just talk throws. Everyone can throw everyone. A throw is a very basic building block of the game. One thing to note, though, that's very important for building pressure is throws cannot be rolled. Like many characters, there's multiple roll options, which are covered in the defensive section. But, you can get in, you can dodge forward, you can dodge backwards after getting knocked down. If you're thrown, you're in place for the duration. And basically that means you can always rely on them getting up in a very fixed amount of time. So say, Jenny here, I'm plus 53 after my forward throw specifically. And say I throw them in the corner. Okay, so still plus 53 there. But if I throw them in the corner and dash twice, I exactly recover with 7 frames of advantage. You know what 7 frames? Or close heavy punch. So now I've created a situation where like I can mathematically time them out that they have to wake up into my close heavy punch. And there you go, right? So obviously they're not going to be able to mash their way out of it or even jump out or whatever. It's just a good building block of offense. Since it's a form of hard knockdown everyone has access to no matter what. And of course, plenty of characters have other ways to do hard knockdowns. But the basic throw is always a hard knockdown, thus it's always scary. And of course, you know, the basics of throws. If someone blocks too much, you throw them. You can't break them open any other way, right? So throws are always important building block offense, but specifically because they give hard knockdowns in this version of the game, they're just extra strong in that way because you can always build reliable pressure from them. So now the next part of offense, we're going to talk about wild counters and, well, the plain old counter hit. Both are very important building blocks of how offense works in the game. If you hit the enemy, that's fantastic, but if you hit him with a counter hit or a wild punish, things get much better. So now counter hits are on, and it's very easy to tell visually counter hits on, because you can see that glass break effect. Now, not every hit can trigger that glass break effect. It's generally the heavier hits, just to let you know you got something of significance going on, like you got something real. And the thing about counter hits compared to regular hits is they'll always increase the frame advantage. So with Jenny's here, if I want heavy punch into a feint, I'd be +7 on counter hit, so I can make this link into itself, a 2-hit combo. However, on regular hit, that's only +2. So getting any move on a counter hit can give significant frame advantage. And more to the point, sometimes counter hits also give new effects to moves. Like Jenny has a move here, Crazy Ivan, quarter-circle back punch. And this is good for her just because it's a good longer range move. She doesn't have many long range moves, so she can just kind of hit you from further away. That's great in and of itself. But if it happens to hit a counter hit, so I hit you hitting any kind of button, now it's a launcher. You go flying. And if I hit a launcher, naturally, you would think it's combo time. And now a move that I wasn't planning to do much more than just poke you with the launch, now I cashed out for some pretty decent damage overall, right? So landing a counter hit can be a very, very big deal. Sometimes it's just, you know, okay, maybe I get a bit more frame advantage. For counter hits, you also hit harder as well. So stand heavy punch would normally be 50. On a counter hit, it'll be 60. So you get more damage. Well, it's basically all upside. If you know you're going to hit buttons, aim for the counter hit and you might get massive rewards. But then there's the wild punish. So what happens when you get a wild punish? Well, don't worry. The game will let you know. The game will let you know. Because everything stops for a second when you get a wild punish. So how do we get a wild punish? A counter hit is just hitting someone while they're trying to do a move. A wild punish is hitting someone during the recovery of the move. Like the move is done, but they haven't regained control over the character just yet. That's what will trigger a wild punish. So you can see here, for Dong, I'm hitting him after he's recovering. If I hit him during the startup of the move, instead I would get the counter hit, right? So I got to wait for it to recover. Very strong in situations where you're threatening throwing someone and you walk out and they go for the throw, and then all of a sudden you hit the button, you get the wild punish. And naturally, because you get that bit of a screen stop, you can really set up some of your truly more fantastical combos. And hey, there you go, right? Good chunk of change for just catching someone whiffing a throw. And of course, if you know anything's gonna whiff, it'll work that way. A few things to note though. Some of the biggest punishes you can get in a fighting game is when someone whiffs the big uppercut, right? For whatever reason, the game will not give you the wild punish in that situation. I guess they're like, we don't need to have too much damage, right? So in those situations, you will get a counter hit instead. The counter hit's still great, right? Like you'll still get your punish, but it just won't be the biggest, most possible monumental punish of all time. Now, let's say you block a move that's like actually punishable on block. So in that situation, the game will just give you a punish. So special supers that are just punishable on block, it'll just give you a regular punish. That's it. That's all. They figure you already got your guaranteed damage. The wild punish, it would add like an extra 50 to maybe 100 damage depending on the situation. So you already got your damage. You're good. Just take it on the table, but we're not giving you a wild punish. Now let's talk defense. One of the things about this game is there's a lot more defense in here than the average fighting game. Fighting games of modern years have done a lot to lower players' defensive abilities. in this game, you almost always have an option. You almost always have a way out. And I think that's actually one of the more appealing things about the game. So let's talk defense. First, one of the basics, tech rolls. Many of the knockdowns in game will let you be able to roll. So if you do nothing, if you press no buttons, you'll just get up in place as you would expect, but you actually have quite a few options. There are four kinds of rolls. There is a back and forward roll, which I guess explanatory enough, but there can also be a short roll forward or backwards and a long roll forwards or backwards. And during this roll, you are invincible. You cannot be hit when you're rolling specifically. So how do we accomplish this? As simple as when you get knocked down, whatever it may be, hit back or forward and light punch or heavy punch. Light punch will be a shorter roll. The heavy punch will be the longer roll. So if you're looking to get space one way or another, this is a great way to do it. One really good example, like let's say mid-screen. Knock me down? I don't want to be near you. I'm going to pick the furthest away roll possible. Let's say you knock me down in the corner. You know what? I'm going to be a little tricky. Roll on the other side, right in front of you, short roll in front of you, cross you over, and then try to put you in a corner combo instead. Now keep in mind, not every knockdown could be rolled. We have hard knockdowns. A basic throw is a good example. Everyone has access to a basic throw, and those are unrollable. So it's going to depend move to move, knockdown to knockdown, but you'll always have the option, if you can roll, to choose far, long, and either forwards or backwards. Now let's talk an ultra critical part of defense in this game, and that is the just defense. So this is kind of what separates Mark of the Wolves, Fatal Fury, the classical game, from like other things, especially say Street Fighter. So what is just defense? Just defense on its base is just block right before the move connects. It's really that simple. Like, it doesn't got to be frame perfect. The windows, I don't know how it is in this specific version of the game, but it's generous enough. It's definitely got to be a few frames. It's not super tight. And no, it doesn't change frame data or anything like that, but still, it's very powerful for a lot of reasons. For one, I want you to have a look at my health bar here. For one, every time you just defend, it gives you a little bit of health. It's only a little bit, but health is health. And that can be very powerful, especially when you're up against multi-hitting moves. Like Jenny's projectile is multiple hits. What happens if I just defend every single hit? Oh, I get 3 ticks of health instead. Okay, that might actually be enough to determine who wins or who loses, just having that extra few pixels of health. Now say our rev gauge is up a little bit as well. Another thing about just defense is it lowers your rev gauge on top of the natural lowering it does by itself. Basically, every time you just defend, at minimum, it'll give you a 1% discount on the rev gauge, right? So there is pretty good incentive just on the base level to do it. Get a little bit of health, basically get a little bit more meter. These are perfectly fantastic reasons in and of themselves. Another big thing about this game, because it's an old school style game, it doesn't have that modern layer of protection, modern layer of, if you want to call it coddling people. Chip kills in this game, right? And it doesn't need to be in any specific thing. You don't got to be in burnout or whatever. Chip just kills. End of story. You die if you get chipped out. And you know what a really good way to not die to chip is? Well, that's just defense. Because not only does it give you life, like you don't take chip damage. So now, if they just try to lame you out with an obvious thing to chip you out, you can just defend all the hits and not die. So instead of waiting on the system mechanics to save you, you're taking your life into your own hands. Now, another incredibly important layer of just defense is you can do it while jumping. There is no air block in this game, so you can only just defend while in the air, but it gives you an opportunity to basically not get hit when otherwise you'd be guaranteed to be hit. Common fighting game scenario, I jumped in, oh no, I jumped into the fireball, silly me. But in this game, obviously it's a skill-based deal, but once again, the window for just defense is fairly large, right? It isn't the hardest thing in the world to do. So if you make that bad jump, you land on a fireball, you can just tap back, try to just defend it, and if you get hit, you get hit, whatever, right? But at least you have the chance to not get hit. That's a big deal. I'm gonna jump. Oh no, I got hit by the uppercut. Fighting game 101, right? You did the bad jump in, you got hit by the uppercut. But you can just defend in the air. You see there, I actually just defended multiple times because that move is multi-hitting in the air. So in situations where you're jumping and like, oh, you're going to get hit by the uppercut style move, you can actually just defend as long as you have the right timing to get out of it. Now that's harder because who knows when you don't know when they hit the button, right? On that kind of situation. But once again, you have a chance. And say in more telegraph situations, like they're going for a super, you get blown up. Since you have the telegraph, it actually couldn't save your life because you'll have more time. As you can kind of just smash at that point because you've seen the startup, right? So that's really powerful. And just in general, the fact that you have a chance to defend yourself in the air. There is one big weakness though. It is only on regular jumps. It is not on hops. Hops, being short of the ground, are generally just much more powerful offensively, and thus they do not give you the option to just defend. If you are hopping, you cannot just defend, end of story. So if they catch you with that, uppercut style move, you are actually dead to rights. There's no saving yourself at all. It has to be just defense or nothing on a full, like proper jump, not a hop. And then say this is our example of the projectile, right? Say we're in a projectile war. I block your thing and I want to throw my thing. But what if we could do it faster? Enter the guard cancel. Oh, what happened there? So I threw it faster than I did last time because you can cancel any just defense into a special move. Any special move. So that's a low level example of I can just defend a fireball coming away then throw my own fireball, but it has many, many more layers than that. Since a guard cancel cancels your just defend into a special move, it does change the frame data in a way. The actual just defense doesn't change the frame data in and of itself, but since you're no longer in block stun and going right into a special move, that changes things. So say we'll use an example here of Jenny. So Jenny can use Crazy Ivan, which at the range she uses that. If you block it, it's safe, right? I can't exactly punish her for doing it necessarily. But if I manage to catch it with a just defense, I can cancel that just defense into a guard cancel, into another special. And then, since I'm no longer in the block stun, boom, punish, guaranteed. So it can take situations that are like by the math, by the frame data, not able to get any kind of punch or have any agency for you. And if you get the just defense, then you get that agency. And of course, depending on your character, it can be different moves. Like say, again, here an example, character goes for a close heavy into a feint, right? And usually that's going to be plus on block for them. So it's extra bad. You're not allowed to hit buttons. But if you manage to just defend it, depending on your character, you can turn the just defend into any special move, right? And T-Zoc can turn that into EX grab, for example. So all of a sudden, their guaranteed pressure turned into your guaranteed command grab, right? Like, there is a lot of situations where you can get very interesting with this, and it basically always will give you some kind of counterplay, mostly. It has to be a situation where you can still not get blown up, though. That's the thing. Like, if we're eating, that plus on block situation where we gotta, like, hold our buttons because we're not allowed to hit buttons out of here or we'll get counter hit. If we wait for those secondary attacks and special cancel that first hit, and the second attack afterwards still coming out, well, special cancel into whatever move, and then we still get hit anyways. So you still need enough time to breathe, is what I'm saying. Even though it'll give you a lot of outs in a lot of situations, nothing's actually guaranteed. Now, our next concept to talk about is hyper defense. Basically, just defense, but for multiple hits. Now, yes, of course, you can just defend multiple hits as it stands, but many attacks have like a lot of associated hits with them, and sometimes you don't just defend the first move. If you don't just defend the first move, you can't just defend the rest. That's where hyper defense comes into play. So here we go. Notice here, the different graphic, all that kind of stuff. So that's the essence of hyper defense. Now it has all the same properties. You regain a little bit of life, all that kind of stuff. So what's the deal here? Basically, it's just defense, except you do it for the hits after the first hit. And when you're doing it, you just hit forward instead of hitting backwards. And it's applicable in many of the same situations. So say scenarios where the opponent's trying to chip you out. Okay, that's not good. And just like just defend, this can help save you. So that's effectively the idea. So you're hitting forward instead of hitting back for the just defense, and you're trying to time it to the hits. Sometimes you won't be able to get every single hit, but just you'll regain a little bit of health, it'll reduce the overall chip damage, so it's fantastic in that way. It's also quite strong against obvious pressure where you have a lot of multiple hitting moves coming your way that are obvious, like say this block string from Mai. Since there's so many multiple hits, you can just kind of use it to help just regain a little bit of your control over the match. Now what makes this very strong is we talked about guard canceling, and you can guard cancel off a hyper defense just like a regular just defense, which means things like very obvious block strings with a lot of hits. If you can just kind of get the rhythm, you can now turn all those block strings that, you know, ideally normally, you know, they're very plus, so you're not allowed to like mash out or you get blown up, right? If it's very obvious and you know what's coming, you can hyper defend, say the final hit, turn into a guard cancel. And then all of a sudden, we've really turned the tables on the enemy, right? So it's very strong in that way. That's what I mean about when the defender has many more options in a game like this compared to the average fighting game. If you are just thrown non-stop, like brain dead offense, you can really punish the opponent for it. And that's not all. So we've been talking about guard cancels and how you can cancel them in the various special moves, and that's very powerful. But when using hyper defense, we can guard cancel a super move, and it's becoming even stronger than it normally ever is, because it becomes a 0 frame move, meaning it happens instantaneously. So say I'll do a regular guard cancel and I'll go into this super for Jenny. What's going to happen here? So I'm going to give you the scenario here of, once again, Mai's going to go for a level 1 super, try to chip us out, something like that, right? And we just can't let that happen. So let me show you the power of the 0 frame super on both the just defense and the hyper defense. And there we go, 0 frame. You can see it right across the screen, right? And she doesn't get to do the rest of the move because literally she's frozen in place. The super goes off immediately, no startup. Now, for full disclosure, this is mad hard to do, okay? Like super actually hard. It took me like 3 tries. Like, I got the benefit of training mode. In a real match, just defending the super raw, not going to say it's impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. But that's where hyper defense comes into play, because you can also do it off hyper defense. And when you're doing things like hyper defense, we talked about predictable strings, predictable multi-hit special moves. Like say Jenny here, she's going to go on a block string into the fireball. And that's always a 3 hitting move. And she'll actually just basically be safe. It's not a big deal. As we get into the block stun, we gotta recover. But since it's a 3 hitting move and we know exactly how many hits it's gonna be, what can we do here when it comes to a hyper defense? There we go. 0 frame, punish. Punish. Normally that would be unpunishable. It would just basically reset us to neutral. But if we hyper defend what we know is going to be last hit, because we can effectively set a rhythm to it, then we can do our super and get punishes where normally no punishes would ever be possible. Now, this is a lot easier than doing it off of raw just defense, because we can like build a timing to it as long as you're comfortable with the setup that's going on. But it's still tricky. You need fast fingers, right? What can definitely help is, since it's always a forward input, is basically do the first quarter circle forward, and then you're getting your hyper defense from that first forward input, and then you input the second quarter circle forward for the super quickly. Very powerful techniques. Now, a thing I guess I should mention here is you can't just mash forward, if that's what you're thinking, obviously, right? Because it just don't work that way. Like Jenny's fireball is a true block stun. If I block the first hit, I have to block the rest. But if I just mash forward trying to get that hyper defense, see how I got hit there? It will take you out of block stun. So anything that's like a true block string or whatever, if you just mash out without the actual timing, you'll just get out of block stun and get actually hit, which maybe isn't as desirable. So you can't just mash your way out of it. It is very much a skill-based mechanic. But if you're just put in situations where you can kind of read the opponent's habits, and they can be bad situations, right? They can be advantage on block or put you in a bad situation. If you know what those habits happen to be, then you can take that, I know what the string is going to be, and turn it around. either there's a small gap in the pressure and you can just defend the gaps, even if you can't normally hit buttons out of it. And then, hey, maybe you can guard cancel, but keep in mind, guard cancel doesn't make the move immediate necessarily. Because you can guard cancel all you want. If the next move's coming your way, like, it's still going to hit you. But that's, again, when everything's predictable, then we can use hyper defense to get a 0-frame super and change our fate. So normally at the end of the whole string, Billy's advantage and in our face. And instead, that turned into our punish because of the 0-frame super. So obviously, you need meter. Like there's many particulars, but this is what makes defensive play strong. You can't be obvious, can't be brain dead on offense, because the defender, unlike many other modern fighting games, doesn't just have to sit there and block forever. You always have some agency involved, and that's what makes defense so powerful in this game. And now, let's talk the Rev system. So the Rev system is at the heart of what a lot of the game is, because it lets you do all the really cool stuff, right? Your enhanced moves, lots of tricks. This is what it's all about. And that rev meter at the bottom is what kind of governs, well, just about everything, right? The more you get fancy, the more it goes up, which is fine, until you go a little too crazy, and then you go into overheat. But that said, now let's talk about some of the particulars. First, there is the Rev Guard. This is another powerful defensive mechanic added to the game. And the Rev Guard, it's its own dedicated button here, and just press it and you're good to go. And one of the lovely things that we talked about earlier, but it also provides shortcuts. Like if you jump and Rev Guard here, like it'll always give you a hop. If you forward in Rev Guard, it'll always be a dash. Back in Rev Guard, it'll always be a back dash. So it's nice. Also for characters that dash instead of running. If you just hold forward in Rev Guard, you'll just dash as fast as possible, so it'll save your wrist. So that's nice. But what is the point of the Rev Guard in and of itself? It's basically a better block. Like say, hey, we got a special move coming our way, and we're taking chip damage. If you Rev Guard, you don't take chip damage. That's fun. Okay, so that's already an immediate, powerful defensive benefit. Out of the gate, absolutely. Another very powerful thing about this move here, the Rev Guard, is that it creates more space between you and your opponent when you're blocking. So say Marco is going to put us in this specific block string. And it's a very powerful block string because like we can't hit buttons during it. Like it's specifically tailored that if we try to hit buttons, we'll get blown up. But if we Rev Guard it instead, notice how that second hit doesn't even connect anymore because the Rev Guard has created more additional space between our two characters. So many guaranteed setups, guaranteed like pressure, block string, whatever, all that's no longer guaranteed if you Rev Guard. Now, of course, there's gotta be a weakness. What's the weakness? So let's say here, Marco's tossing a fireball at us, right? If we block it, our rev gauge goes up a little bit. If you block moves, your rev gauge goes up a little bit. So it's at 6%. Sure. If we Rev Guard, though, it's at 9%. That's kind of the weakness is. Basically, if you Rev Guard, the Rev Guard is a more powerful form of blocking, yes, but each move you block with it will raise your rev gauge more and more and more. Now, it could be to your benefit, because once again, the stream we showed earlier, if we block this, our gauge goes up to 14%. If we Rev Guard it, it goes 12%. Like, obviously, it'd be more overall if the hit's connected, but because of the pushback, the second hit didn't connect. Therefore, we actually took less overall damage to our rev gauge. So there's that, right? But just using it by itself a lot to get that pushback, it will exponentially raise the amount your rev gauge goes up defending, and that could put you into burnout, which we'll talk about in a moment, much faster, which is bad. Another very powerful trait of Rev Guard is it blocks both directions at once, not up and down. So you still have to worry about lows and overheads, but it blocks both left and right. So if Marco comes our way with a cross up here, so normally you can see it. Okay, that's a cross up. The only way to defeat the cross up normally, because, you know, if I hold forward, I will get hit. Against the cross up, I have to hold the other way. Sure, whatever. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But why guess? If you're in a situation where left-right is the thing, and some characters have very effective left-right mix-ups, you can just do it. I'm not guessing. This gets both for me. I don't have to worry about left-right as long as I do this. Obviously, you're blocking, rev gauge goes up, sure, but better than flipping a coin and guessing wrong, right? Now, a very important mechanic is the Rev Accel Cancel. This is at the heart of like all the cool and effective combos in the game. As when you enhance a move, it's a rev move, And, you know, generally it's better than the regular version of the move and raises your meter. But you're allowed to cancel that move on its final hit into other Rev moves. So normally if I did this, wait for it to end and I go for this, like it's never going to connect. But I can take this final hit here and then cancel into the other move before it's even over. And you can see that blue after image, right? And they work together great. One launches the enemy and the other one forces a ground bounce. And from there, like, you can get combos, you can follow up. And all sorts of these moves work together fantastically. Like, they're meant to be used in tandem to build greater combos. It's always nice to get a combo starter going. Sure, absolutely. But when you get the big hit, you want to maximize your output, and this is how you do it. So here we go. Now we're getting a very sizable chunk of damage. And that's what we want, but it's not cheap on the Rev Gauge. Notice our Rev Gauge here. We're at over 60%. So we are paying a cost, but that's one of the main primary things here of the game, is to use the Rev Gauge to build to our more fantastical combos. Now, the one thing to note here is just because everything can cancel and everything else doesn't mean it's always going to hit. Like we showcased here, EX Hurricane goes into EX Backstep in the knee, right? That's fantastic. But EX Rekka Punches here do not go into the knee. So you have to worry about the properties and how they interact. Another one here, our EX Stepping Kick, that provided a fantastic ground bounce before. Like say we go for that EX Overhead, which is good in its own way. But if we go into our Jaguar Kick after the fact, it combos, but it doesn't get that big knock-up that we saw earlier that we can recombo from. So how you build the combo together, it really matters. But that's one of the most powerful aspects of the game, is Rev Accel Cancels, and being able to string so many moves together that you can get very inventive with it. Now it's time to talk the Overheat state. So hey, don't worry, the game will let you know, right? The meter's going crazy, you're glowing bright red. This is what happens when you either get too greedy, doing too many Rev moves, or too many Rev Accel Cancels, or maybe even you block too much, because once again, blocking raises your gauge. This is definitively a penalty state. So when you're in this state, what exactly is going on? So unlike other games on the market, no, it doesn't change the frame data on block or anything like that, and no, it doesn't make you susceptible to chip damage, because chip damage kills you anyways normally in this game, because it's an old school style game. But the thing is, you lose a lot of your offense. One of the big ones, while you can still certainly do your special moves, you can no longer do your Rev moves. Anything that is like what you would call an EX move, now no longer can be done, meaning you have lost a massive part of your offense. Effectively, everything engaging with the system is gone. So no more enhanced moves, no more Rev Guard. So your just ability to defend yourself has become very, very weak. And I guess let's talk about the big thing. You might notice that bar under Marco's health here, that's finally moving. Normally it doesn't move in the course of a regular part of a match, but if it goes all the way, it becomes a guard crush. And guard crush means you get a guaranteed combo. And it's not terribly difficult to force a guard crush. Like if I know you're an overheat and say you're partway through your meter here, all I need is 2 taps, and guess what? You are actually done. Boom, guard break, I get a guaranteed combo, I can do whatever I want. So how do we get out of this? This is obviously not ideal. We can barely block. You might be able to take a block string, and the second block string is gonna guard break you and you're gonna die. It's gonna be game over. So how do we get out of this? Now, if you're wondering, well, we talked about the last section, guard cancels with just defense and hyper defense. Can't guard cancel anymore because you can't just defend or hyper defense anymore. Since that's a core part of regular defense and it's taken away from you, that means this is extra scary. So we have to get out of this ASAP. So it will naturally go down over time slightly, as you can see here. So that's fine. And if you're aggressive, it'll go down faster. And like even just walking forward will help make go down more. And this also helps the regular Rev Gauge go down more, by the way, just being aggressive walking forward. So you just got to kind of do stuff. You got to be proactive, because if you're defensive, it goes down slower. And if you're defensive, you're going to get guard broken and die. And we're going to talk about this more in a later section, but you can still do your supers at least. You still have that. So Any invincibility a super might have will help you out. But if you go for your hidden gear, if you happen to be in your SPG state while you're in burnout, hidden gears remove all of Rev Gauge buildup, including if you're in overheat. If you're in overheat, you automatically go back to normal. So that's another way to get out. So now let's talk the SPG system, the selective potential gear. That's the funny bit of your life that is glowing. And that can be up front, that can be in the middle, that can be at the end. And when you're in it is basically when you're at your best as a character. Things are looking your way like upwards on a lot of fronts. Not the least of which, one of the most important factors is this is where you get access to your Rev Blow. This is the part where you turn green. Every character has a grounded Rev Blow and a jumping Rev Blow. And what makes Rev Blow so strong is they're armored. So basically, if you know some nonsense is coming your way, you can literally just armor right through it. Especially for the jumping ones here, it can help you as sometimes you just need an approach and you don't know what to do. Say there's a nasty man throwing fireballs your way, right? So that's happening. At least you can kind of get your aerial special move on, come down. And on top of being armored, one of the nice things is at the startup of a Rev Blow, it also just nullifies projectiles. It doesn't armor through projectiles, it doesn't connect, it just kind of deletes them. Now, many characters, they have access to the mechanic, right? It's universal, but it's not universally applicable. So someone like Preacha, I talk about dissipating fireballs. Like that's by design. Like hers is meant to rush forward very fast and just get past that stuff and hit the opponent on the other end. Like it's part of her game plan to basically just work her way in and help the rush down game plan. Someone like Jenny though, like it just doesn't work the same way. Jenny, hers is quite fast startup and goes up very fast as well. Because Jenny traditionally has some difficulty dealing with jumps. So this is specifically to help shore up her weakness on that front. So while she's in SPG, this is the one time you really have to think about jumping against her. Other times, I'm not going to say it's free, but like it's easier. But this is when she actually becomes a defensive fortress. Using it as an armor move, it has a great deal of pushback, effectively resetting to neutral, where she's at her strongest. This is where she wants to be. So it basically, even if it doesn't connect, it has reset her to her most advantageous position. So everyone has stuff differently. And like other games, if you catch someone doing it and you do your own Rev Blow in return, you get that sick slow down effect. Let them know you got them dead to rights. However, keep in mind you don't always need it. We do have the dodge tax as we talked about earlier in the video, and grounded SPGs are always mids, and therefore you can also kind of just do that instead, right? But generally, it's more advantageous to do Rev Blow versus Rev Blow, as you'll get a better kind of hit. You'll get more opportunities. Now, the final thing to talk about, it ain't free. So you can always kind of spam it, I guess, if you're in your SPG, but it does take your Rev Gauge to do every time. So if you get a little too crazy, you might put yourself in overheat. But these are very powerful attacks by design because they're only available to you for a very short time of the match. Only when you're in part of your health that has the SPG. So that's great. Another major part of the SPG is when you're in your SPG, that is the only, I repeat, the only time you have access to your hidden gear, which is your big cinematic super. And for the cast, it's always going to be their single most damaging move, and visually, usually, their most impressive move as well. And okay, so the really big move that does lots of damage, that sells itself by itself. I don't go further than that. But the other thing about the hidden gear that is super valuable is it resets your Rev Gauge no matter what it's at. So right now we're at 50%. Just by hitting this move, we're going to go back down to 0. Like straight up, all the way back down to 0, because it just does a full-on reset. So this is super valuable. It will also reset you even if you're in overheat. So you're all the way burned out, it'll reset you to 0. So when you get that big combo opportunity and you're in SPG and you have 2 bars, because it will always take both your meters, you can basically swing for the fence as hard as you possibly can, because no matter what, you'll always reset to 0. So don't worry about going in overheat, because it's going to fix itself. So there you go. I'm in overheat, but now I landed my hidden gear, And on top of this, going to do like way too much damage. I'm going to fully reset to 0. So like there's effectively no negative to this because I can just immediately start spamming enhanced rev moves again. So SPG gives you your Rev Blow, super powerful mechanic, and also access to your most powerful super move. But that's the obvious stuff. Now let's talk the less obvious stuff. Now, another very important part of the SPG mechanic that is not as obvious as like big flashy moves is what I'll call the SPG discounts. Because, hey, doing like, you know, big fancy Rev Accel Cancels combos, like they're fantastic, they're lovely, but they get better with your SPG. So basically anything involving spending Rev Gauge gets a discount with your SPG. So normally if I do this move raw, it'll raise my gauge by 25%. Okay, fair enough. And here's the thing. And no, the first part of our health bar, it's still 25%. Thing is, you get discounts basically if you put it further down the line, because it would seem obvious that the higher up, like I wanted the benefit of the SPG right away, right? But the further down the line, you get discounts. So say we have it here in the middle. Okay, so now we're in the middle right now. Instead of 25%, oh, 19%. Nice little discount. So say if we were to do a quick little, you know, double Accel cancel here. So it would be at 31% versus normally, or if we had the SPG at the front, it would be at 40%. So, okay, nice little discount. So discounts are nice, right? So let's use an example here where we'll do 2 in a row here, 2 Rev Accel cancels in a row. So first move, second move, third move. And you can see here we're at 39%. Now, it's not as steep, but the discount gets better even at the end of the line. Same sequence here, right? And it's at 34%. Keep in mind before, it was 39%, right? So the further down the bar you go with your SPG, basically, your offense gets much stronger. Like we showed earlier a combo with Preacher that put me into the overheat state, right? And the final ratio of SPG before that put me in overheat. Here in the final SPG portion, that's only 70%. So I could still do even more things. I can keep the combo going. So basically, the further down the line you go, your ultimate combo potential is higher than it is before. So if you want to call that like a comeback mechanic or whatever, like I guess you could, but that's kind of why it matters where you place it. Like even something like the Rev Blow. If we have the SPG in the front, Rev Blow costs 17%. If we're in the final part of our SPG, it's now 12%. So once again, just more discounts. So that's a thing, like if you are very heavy on the combo end of things, then it might be to your benefit to place the SPG later on because you will just get better combos and more combos with the Rev Gauge because of the discounts. So now we're going to talk about the anatomy of a combo. You know, fighting games are about combos a lot in the end. And there's a lot of different particulars about this. So this is going to be kind of like one larger topic, but broken up into parts. We're going to talk links, then we're going to talk feints, then we're going to talk breaks, because those are very important as well. And then, of course, Rev Accel cancels, and then just kind of how it all works together. So first, links. So unless a move just chains into itself, like say many characters like Crouch Light Punch, where you can just like do this, cool, I got a hit, and do a special move, whatever. Link is a big part of it. A link is simply the numbers. You can turn the numbers on in training mode and like, okay, close light kick here for Gato says it's +6. What do I have that's +6? Close heavy punch is 6 frames. Okay, 6 and 6. Boom, 2 hits. There you go. It's a combo, right? And then from there, you can do more elaborate combos. So either you're chaining moves together with moves that chain, or perhaps certain target combos that chain, like Jenny heavy punches here, and then you can just go into a special cancel there. But either you're just doing stuff that chains together, or you're creating links, and frame data determines the links, and all you gotta do is just hit someone, turn on the info in training mode, and you can see all the numbers clear as day. Like here. So close heavy punch for Gato, links into jab. So now that I know this is 7 frames, I can do a jab afterwards because the numbers work out. There you go, right? And then of course, naturally, do combos after the fact. So that's a bit of 101, but now here's where the 101 gets more layered, and that is the addition of feints. So feints are interesting because, you know, they help trick people into understanding what's going on. You're not actually attacking. It's basically there to fake people out. And for some people, the feint can be quite useful because, like, Jenny here, right? Like, am I about to throw that fireball? I'm making it look like I'm about to throw the fireball, but I didn't actually. And maybe you jump, and maybe I snipe you out of the air because you jumped, right? I just faked you out. But feinting is a special cancelable thing. So just like I can special cancel a hit into a special move, I can special cancel a move into a feint. And the thing is, that's very important here, is that changes the frame data. So normally here, close heavy punch, we already said +7. We can go for a jab, great. But if we do this, and one of our feints, it's now +8. Because the feint is so quick, we actually recover just ever so slightly faster than we would normally, giving us more frame advantage. And now +8, you know what's 8 frames? It's crouching heavy punch. So now, instead of doing this into a jab, which is fine, it's perfectly alright, we can do this, feint, and then go into another heavy and get much more damage, much more combo potential. Because, usual fighting game 101, the heavier the move, generally the bigger the hit you can combo into. Like, Gato has this fancy back turn stance and a very powerful attack from the back turn stance. But, it doesn't combo off that jab. It just doesn't work, right? But since I'm getting heavy to heavy, thanks to the fact I'm feint canceling the first heavy, giving me more frame advantage, that now combos. So we can do that. And wouldn't you know what? We talked about links, talked about frame advantage. We do this and end our back turn stance, leaves us +6. Jab is 6 frames. So we work all this together. And wouldn't you know it, right there, we just created a combo. Thanks to using links properly, feints properly, all that stuff. We used the numbers, we used our knowledge, and it all works together. Doing a move and then feinting the move is very good for creating frame advantage and combos. Like here, normally that's +3, but with the feint, it's +6. It can wildly change the numbers sometimes. So for that means that all naturally combos. So character to character is going to be different. Some characters have multiple feints. Like for this one here, using this feint instead makes us very negative. Actually makes us punishable on hit. We don't want that. We want the feints that end very quickly versus the longer, more elaborate feints. It's going to be one of those deals where you're going to have to play the characters, see what they got, test out the different moves. That's kind of what we're looking for. Also great for just pressure in general. Once again here, close heavy kick for it's negative on block, -1, but whatever. But if we feint cancel, now it's +2, so now it's our turn. We have the advantage. So feinting during your offense is more powerful than just trying to fake them out, like am I going to toss a fan or not. It will create all new pressure routes, all new combo routes, and of course, then we have the breaks. Actually, really quick before we start the next section, just so you know, feinting, you can do it either by the Rev button and heavy, or you can macro it to your own singular button press, or you can also do it by heavy punch and light kick as well. So we have multiple ways to do it. But now the brakes, so pumping the brakes. So that's the thing here. You end a move early, like, hey, normally, burn knuckle, right? Punch you in the face, but how about, now I break it and I throw you instead. That's what we're doing. We're breaking the move, pumping the brakes, stopping the move. Now you can do this by a move that's break okay. Not every move is break okay, but don't worry, the command list will tell you. If a move has a feint attached to it, you'll see FE. If a move has a break attached to it, you'll see BR. So there's no mystery here. But yeah, so what you do is you hit light punch and light kick together, or you can hit the Rev button, whatever's easier for you. And then you'll end the move early. So it's good for fake out offense, but it's very critical for combos as well. So Terry, power dunk. Like, cool move, great move. But if you break it, you get the first part of the move where it launches the enemy upwards, but you end early. You don't do the rest. But the thing is, you end early, but then you can just kind of keep going and get more combos. So for many moves, if you break them early during the move, you'll get one part of the hit, recover quick, and then it becomes a juggle starter. And juggle starters, like, I shouldn't have to tell you, like, this stuff writes itself. You want more elaborate, more elongated combos? This is how you do it. You pop them in the air, and you keep juggling. This is very literally fighting game 101. So this is why breaks are very valuable for all the cast. So every character, the break's a bit different, but you can see which moves, and the effect's mostly the same unless it's being done as like a fake out move. I can do this, break the move, and launch the enemy. Normally this would be the full motion, right? And the thing is, you can chain breaks together. So say his EX Hell Rotor, right? I can break that, and the first part happens, and then I do nothing, and I can get a follow-up, and I'll do this other move and break that, and then keep following up. So now I have 2 juggles. And then maybe I'll let the move finish out, right? So you can keep using multiple breaks to keep the combo flow going. And also, there's a little bit of a rule on how breaks work. So you can't just infinitely juggle somebody. Like, that would be actually ridiculous, right? So you can only use 1 break per combo. But the thing is, if the move has an enhanced version and has its own break, you can use both. So it's basically 1 break per combo for regular hit and for enhanced hit. So Marco here, uppercut, sure. But then uppercut break, EX uppercut break, now I can keep that going. And Marco, more advanced juggles, he has another move that has a break attached to it as well. So I can go break juggle, break juggle, break juggle, and then now I'll actually uppercut you for fun, right? So that can be quite tricky. Sometimes a break juggle is near the beginning of the combo, sometimes it'll be closer to the end of the combo. Like Vox here has a regular launcher, and from there, and now I'll dash forward, then I'll do the break. And then I'll close out the combo. So where it is in the combo depends character to character, and some people get multiple juggles off breaks. That's for you to hit training mode, figure out for yourself, basically. But here's how it all works. So now, and of course, then there's Rev Accel Cancels. So you take enhanced moves, and then you cancel them into other enhanced moves to keep combo ability going. Like say characters with command grab like Vox here. The enhanced version is actually like tailor-made for that. So we take the final hit of the grab, Rev Cancel again, then we'll do a break, then we'll do an EX break, and then we just keep the train going, right? So let me show you putting this all together in one grand form. So to start off, close heavy kick feint gives us enough frame advantage to link into close light kick, which gives enough frame advantage to link into crouching heavy punch. From there, we do the launcher. We'll do an EX move, Rev Accel Cancel into another EX move to launch them a bit higher. Dash, do the uppercut and break, then dash and do the EX uppercut and break because we're allowed to do both. Then actually like do an actual juggle at that point, and then go into a big cinematic super, the hidden gear, because we already spent some bar. Why not just, go back to 0, right? So this is how it all sort of works together. We're looking for situations to create frame advantage that make moves linked into each other, and doing a feint's a fantastic way to do it. At some point, we're looking for a way to launch them, and breaks are a great way to launch or relaunch enemies. And that's some combo 101. Putting it all together, sometimes the best combo is just the little stuff. Like sometimes just jab, jab, quick check. Like that's going to be as big of a part of your game plan as the most elaborate 10-second, 20-second combos, right? The little stuff matters as much as the big stuff. So don't only practice the big stuff, but that is generally combo flow and how combos work in Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. And that is your beginner's guide to Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. I didn't lie to you at the beginning saying this is a very mechanically in-depth game, because there's a lot of things going on. And hopefully throughout all these sections, covering the myriad of gameplay systems and mechanics, I've helped you understand a lot of it. Some of the advanced stuff, it is advanced, I'm not gonna lie. It'll take you more time, but that's the beauty of fighting games, is the mastery, right? If it was just like a game, you put in 2 hours, you learned everything there is to learn, it wouldn't be as fun. So this is definitely a game that's gonna have some depth for some years to come, and that's great because they've already promised many years of support, and we're gonna get a lot of changes to come over these years, so it's gonna be a long ride, basically. If you want to learn more info, I have more guides on the channel. Be sure to check those out. There'll be more guides to come as well. Basically, lots of coverage for the game, and of course, all fighting games, as we are a fighting game channel. But that all said, if you got any other additional comments you want to put in the YouTube comment if you don't understand something, myself or hopefully other nice people will come and help you out. But yeah, that's it for the video. It is a longer video. If you could spare a like, it will sincerely help the video out. But since we're at the end, Thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Fatal Fury.
Yeah.